Today, I want to speak about home. What is home for orangutans? What is home for us in Hutan? But before we dive into it, let's take a second for everyone to think. What is home for you? Is home you consider a place as a shelter? Do you consider home as a place where you feel safe, comfortable? Or is it a place where you make memories? Or simply it's a place where you eat and sleep? The idea and concept of home can be altogether same or varies according to people, places, and also time. But let's jump back in. What do you think is the home for the orangutans? With the luscious green, of course, the forest is the home of the orangutans. Now, orangutans are arboreal, meaning that they move from one tree to another. In this case, like us, it's like us moving from one room to another. And here you see an orangutan going to a kitchen to feed on a fruit. In this case, this fruit might be a little bit too sour for liking. And usually, after a big meal, what do? We take a nap, same like the orangutans also, and they continue onwards with their food excursion by snacking from a bark of a tree and even cleansing their palate with leaves. Here, after a whole day, they will climb up on a tree and they will start building up nests using branches and leaves. And they will call it a night with this nest that they call bed. And here you see is a baby feeding from its mom. So, this is the home for orangutan. But what does the home of the orangutan looks like today? This is the current reality, where most of the forests are being rapidly transformed and changed since the colonial era. We are talking about logging for timber and also rapid conversion to agriculture. In this case, for our country, in Malaysia, it's the oil palm estates. However, oil palm estates are also the highest economic revenue for our country. And what's left for the orangutan home? They are patchy, they are fragmented, and they are surrounded by this mosaic landscape. But so 25 years ago, Hutan wanted to know, can orangutans adapt to this new reality that they call home? But before that, I want to introduce to you the team. This is a team of field researchers. My colleagues are all hail from the local community that had made this possible. They are the true heroes. And here again, Mark and I are simply messengers to share to you the efforts of their work. But let's take a moment again. I've been asking everyone to take a moment, so just take a moment. Take a moment and be with the researchers. What do you think you would be anticipating if, let's just say, you're trying to follow an orangutan in the forest? If we're in a captive setting, I think it's easy for us to spot one. But in the wild, it's a totally different story. So if, let's just say, the weather is on our side, it's a really clear, bright day with sunlight leaking through the trees, and there is no rain in a tropical rainforest. What a dream. And what you'll be anticipating are the figures. They're moving on top of the trees. If you're lucky, you get to see this, a silhouette with brown and orange line figure moving from one tree to another. So this is the work of the orangutan research team. And after 25 years, we can finally say that yes, orangutan, they can adapt and they can live in disturbed or degraded habitat. But more recently, we are seeing orangutans moving in and out of the forest. In this case, it's the oil palm estates. And when they're doing that, the team also observed them trying out new food. it's like us going to a supermarket when you try to go to an aisle and you sample new goodies. It was like, ooh. So what is the new goodies for the orangutan? In this case, it's the palm fruits. And it's observed directly by the team and also captured through camera traps. We are also seeing mother orangutans with their babies breathing inside the oil palm plantation. And what's surprising is that the team also observed orangutans finding comfort, climbing up on the palm tree, weaving these sharp palm fronds to make a nest. So all of this to say, are they finding a new home outside of their forest home? This is not something we're not sure of. But what we are certain is that if they're going out of their forest home, outside of the protected area, they are exposed to new threats. So, Hutan, understanding this, we want to minimize the threats. And this is by having team embarking into more activities that includes protection and patrolling. And besides protecting them and also protecting their home, Hutan wants to fix their home too. And this is where the all-women reforestation team comes in, when they establish corridors to connect a safe passageway for the orangutans to move from one forest patch to another. And also, the reforestation team does great work in repairing and the disturbed habitat by planting trees. So, I'm pretty sure some of you are gardeners. I think I am. But before you plant a sapling or two, what must you do? Of course, you have to clear the area. And this takes a lot of work to machine through all of these shrubs and grasses. And they have my utmost respect. Because it is essential for us to clear the area to guarantee the growth and survival of these tree saplings. And this goes without saying, and I'm going on like a broken record, they have my utmost respect for these dedicated women, because for the past 20 years, they have planted more than 150,000 trees and accumulated more than 500 acres of corridor and restored forests. So 500 acres, thank you. Thank you. So 500 acres, that is like the size of Monaco. Yes. And the reforestation team, it's not only planting trees. The team is diving more to understand what value does the forest corridor and the restored forest that they have done for the past 20 years carry. That means that the reforestation team are diving into research too. So the team estimate biomass to understand whether the structure of the home is good enough. And the team also evaluate the soil health to see if the foundation, the structure, is good enough for a home for the orangutans and also for other wildlife. So all of this to say, from protecting the home, fixing their home, repairing the home by creating more corridors. Is it enough? Are we doing enough to save the orangutans? So with this question, I would like to invite Marc to answer. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda. Working? Thanks, Amanda, for this very nice introduction. Hi to everyone. Well, to be honest with all of you, I still don't know. At Hutan, we still don't know if this new landscape that the orangutan is using increasingly can be called orangutan home. We need to delve into more research, more time. But together, we could think about a few things. First of all, the disturbance, the transformation of the home of the orangutan, the forest in Borneo and Sumatra, is not new. It started well before colonial era. It started at a time when people reached Borneo and Sumatra. It started about 40,000 years ago. When people arrived in Borneo 40,000 years ago, they found this vast, pristine landscape full of natural resources, teeming with wildlife. The orangutan we know today is a result of coexistence with people for all this time. And of course, people started to hunt to feed themselves in this new home. And a lot of species, a lot of population were brought to extinction or close to extinction because of coexistence with us. Today, all the forests where we can find orangutan in Borneo or Sumatra have all been impacted by human activities, all of them. So the orangutan we want to save today is actually maybe quite different than the orangutan who used to be there before people arrived, isn't it? But what the orangutan have shown us for 40,000 years is that they can adapt. They can survive. They are very resilient. One of the questions I always ask myself is, how was the orangutan before we invaded their home? It's difficult to answer because, of course, there was no scientist 40,000 years ago. But if we use camera traps in the forest, we'll see that orangutans, they love to walk on the ground. When people are around, they don't do that. Only when people are not around. And you know, when people are not around, orangutans know how to have fun. This is something you won't see if you are with them in the wild. Because if you are with them in the wild, they are up in the trees. Why? 40,000 years of coexistence with us. They have learned who to fear. If you go to a zoo, captive setting, orphanages, you all see orangutan living in a group, isn't it? Social animals. In the wild, they are semi-solitary. They are spending their entire life alone, or nearly alone. Why? I think because they learned, when people arrived in Borneo 40,000 years ago, they learned to fear us, because we were just eating them, okay? And this is super important because the orangutan today, this species we want to save, is a result, once again, of this co-adaptation with us. So the question is not really to know if orangutan can adapt. They can. Are they resilient enough? They are. The question is more, are we ready to coexist with them? Because for the past 40,000 years, I don't think we really shown the way, isn't it? So it's not surprising that our team of researchers in Hutan, in Kinabatangan, where we are, they find these new findings. Orangutan nest built on the ground. This has never been seen before. But the orangutan are entering a new landscape. They change their behavior. They adapt. Amanda was telling you about orangutan going into oil palm plantation, like in this case. Well, they also go into other types of crops. They enter rubber plantation, acacia plantation, orchard, and of course they feast on what people are creating for them. The orangutan adapt. Something orangutan cannot adapt to is killing. This is why so many populations have been driven to extinction, because the orangutan is such a slow breeder. So if we want to answer the question I just asked you, are we ready to coexist with this species? The number one thing we need to do is to address poaching and killing. The other thing we need to do, and Amanda was asking about the value of corridors, is of course to defragment their landscape, what they try to colonize in a way. To do that, we need to remove walls, we need to remove barriers that keep on fragmenting the forest that is left on these two islands. And to do that, of course, we believe at Hutan that the best way is to engage with people, engage with new partners like state agencies from the government, people from the private industry, from the mining company, agriculture, and so forth, and of course, people from the communities. This is essential to work with all these stakeholders who are sharing the same landscape than the orangutans. So at Hutan, we really believe that this is how we're going to save the species. Our journey started 25 years ago. At this time, Hutan was small, 10 people doing orangutan research, all of them from the village. Over the year, this team of people, through their dedication, their effort, their time, and their patience, they became the professional conservationists that are the best ambassadors for the orangutan in Sabah today. Thing is, they are now doing a lot of other things, including drone, eDNA, camera trap, all kind of high-tech tools that we are using to move forward our conservation agenda. This team is growing because to engage with so many different partners who are all active within the orangutan range, we need time, you need patience, you need to listen to the people, you need to understand what they want, their aspiration. And so to do that, we need more people. So Hutan has embarked in a transformation program right now, and we are actually training more and more younger conservationists to be able to do that in the future, to become the best line of defense and protection for the orangutan in this new landscape. As a co-founder of Hutan, I'm very pleased to share with you today one of the blueprints of the new Hutan training center that we want to build in Kinabatangan, where we are, to accommodate our team, which is now more than 120 people. So you imagine we need some space. And this is something we really believe will make a difference in the long term, because with this campus, we will be able to welcome so many different types of stakeholders and to train them and to think with them about what is coexistence. At the end of the day, this is a species we want to save. I do think it's possible. Thank you very much.